color with you?
That's probably.
Okay, I'll color right here.
Like I looked at the
Hold the paper.
Sir,
we're gonna go ahead and just do the two kidneys Irish nachos. Okay, you want chicken or anything in that? No, just for the wait time. Thank you, sir.
Good job, baby. Are you, what color is that? Yellow? Yes, I'm done. What color is that? It's a yellow. Red?
I'm looking forward to that food.
It's alright. Did she go to sleep? Did she go to sleep? She's holding it like a baby, babe. Take the passy off. Here, take the passy off. She put it in her suitcase.
I put you in there so careful and then let me squish you upside down.
She did what we do. She got in the bed with it.
Are you gonna tell her some stories? Here, Bethany. Bethany, read her a book. Read the baby a book. There you go.
Just like we don't fit in her crib.
I know.
She's trying to find her spot.
There you go, baby. There you go. She's under your elbow, but that's alright. Well, Addie's like...
Addie's playing with Kingdom. Look, she's lining up the animals, babe.
I know.
What Addie did, babe.
Good job, Addie.
She's lining them up on the couch.
Bethany, read her a book. Read the baby a book. Read the baby a book.
No.
Read the baby the book, honey. Yeah, put the passy on. Here, pick her up.
Is that what she said?
That's what she sounded like. That's a fun way to get out of the crib.
She read the book.
Hello lovelies and welcome to Vlogmas day, I think today is day 20 if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that, but I'm kind of losing track as time goes on. However, I didn't vlog today. Yesterday was Adeline's first birthday party and it was so much work and we've been out of our house most of today, and then I just cleaned a whole bunch, and so I honestly didn't film anything all day except for the little clips that you saw at the beginning of this when we were out celebrating our friend Danny for his 30th. So anyhow, it is what it is, but I figured I could film a little Q&A for you guys just to have something to put up so you can get to know me a little bit. I'd love to chat with you in the comments. If you have any other questions, drop them down below and we can do a future Q&A as well. I asked this on my Instagram, so if you're not following me over there, you should go follow me on Instagram. My handle is at lovelieinside91. But these are just a couple of questions that I got today, and then there was a couple more that I had gotten asked a while back and I forgot to answer them. So I'm gonna answer them in this video, and I think they're really good questions. So let's get right into it. The first question is, how did you and your husband meet? So back in 2017, I had been living on the mission field full time in France. I lived in Paris for a little bit and right outside the outskirts of Paris. And I was a missionary over there. And I would come in the summers, I would come here to Tulsa, and I would network and connect with people at my church. And during the second time I came back, so I was there for like a period of a total almost like a year and a half, I think it ended up being, while I was over there, but it was like a period of 2 years total. And so anyways, while I was here in the summer, I ended up going, I was looking for a Bible study where I could learn more about God and strengthen my faith. And I really wanted to be around a community of young people who really, really loved the Lord and who wanted to further their relationship with Him and were serious about getting to know Him deeper. And a lot of the Connect groups and Bible study groups that I had been to weren't really Bible study groups, and they were more of just a hangout group. And so one of my friends at the time, he suggested that I go with him to this Bible study. Now, granted, he might have had a little bit of feelings for me, but he still took me to this Bible study, and I clarified with him I wasn't interested. But I think I gave off the wrong impression at the beginning of our friendship. Anyhow, long story short, he introduced me to Roberto, and I met a whole bunch of people at that Bible study. And Roberto was the leader of the group, and I thought he was very mature. I thought surely he's older than me. I thought he was in his 30s, and at the time he was only like 23, I think he was when we met, and I was 25. So yes, I am older than Roberto by almost, I think it's like 2.5 years that I'm older than him. But we hit it off really well. We became really good friends. And I just really admired him a whole lot, but I still had it in my heart that I wanted to go back to France. And towards the middle of the summer, I kind of started wondering, well, my paperwork has to go through. I was going to be an art teacher over there. I had submitted paperwork with the school that I was volunteering at the time, and they submitted it to the French government, and then the French government denied it. And that's how I ended up staying here, because I literally said to the Lord, there is only one way that I'll go back, and that is if I can work while I'm there, because it was just very, very stressful to work at this, to raise funds, enough funds to be able to live there. And not only that, while I was there, I was on a student visa, and so I had to study full-time, or almost full-time, while still doing ministry stuff, and it was just so draining. I was so tired the whole time I was there. And so anyways, long story short, got denied, and I ended up staying here. And at that point in time, Roberto and I kind of knew, like, okay, this is it. And yeah, we didn't even date or anything. We knew we were gonna get married, and that's how we ended up together. He did ask me to be his girlfriend, and of course he proposed like a whole year later after we met. But yeah, it was a crazy year, and we got married 3 months after he proposed. So we got married October of 2018 and met in I think it was the beginning of June, middle of June, or beginning of June of 2017. So that's how we met. Let me make sure my camera is still recording, because it tends to cut off, and I want to make sure that I don't miss any of these questions. Okay, we're good. So that was the first question. The second question was, what do you do when you have baby fever but you aren't quite financially there, but yet feel like you could make it work? Wow. Okay, this is a loaded question. So I'm gonna share my point of view, and then I will share what I would do in this instance if it wasn't me. So my point of view is that when you get married, you go into it with the intention and the knowing that you're ready to start a family. That is my personal conviction and my belief based on what the Bible says. Now, of course, there are circumstances where, now this is me talking like not as if it were me. I guess I'll go a little more into detail about why I believe that. So backing up a little bit, I believe that because of what the Bible says and what the Bible talks about. A man and a woman will leave their families and they will cleave to each other, and then it also says be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Now that applies to everything, and especially it applies to having children. And I honestly, God created the covenant of marriage because he wanted to have kids, you know, and he wanted to fill and replenish the earth. He wanted to replenish the earth and have people in the earth. And so it only makes sense to me that is God's ultimate plan. Like, he wants men and women to come together, get married, and have kids, and to start a family. And naturally, that's what happens when you don't do any kind of preventative things like birth control or condoms, and you get married. Guess what? You're going to conceive a baby pretty fast. And that's what happened with me and Roberto. We conceived Bethany 1 month after we got married. And so now we have a beautiful 2-year-old, and we have a beautiful 1-year-old as well. So, as you might guess, I don't really believe in birth control. That's a whole nother slew of stuff, and there's a reason why I don't believe in birth control. Now, condoms. Okay, condoms, you could use condoms or natural family planning, but there are very, very, very strong implications with using birth control, and I know that is a very touchy subject. Now, that's just my personal conviction, so don't get upset at me if you use it, but that's just my personal conviction. So, going into marriage, I believe, you know, you should be ready to have kids. Now, if you're not financially there, you guys got married and you don't have the funds to be able to have a baby, okay, so it is a little bit costly to have a child, but it's not excessively costly. Honestly, it doesn't. When you first have a kid, the things you need to worry about are medical stuff. You know, if you have a midwife, you're probably going to pay for that out of pocket. If you go to the hospital, you're also going to have to pay some of that. And but if you have health insurance, you know, it would probably cover some of it, if not most of it. So that's one thing. The second thing is, yeah, you're gonna have to pay for medical for your kid if you don't have health insurance. And then the first year of life, if you're breastfeeding, you don't have to pay for formula. Formula is extremely expensive. With Bethany, I know that it's not possible for every woman to breastfeed, or that it's very difficult with your child. With Bethany, it was a very, very difficult journey for me. I wanted to breastfeed all the way through to like plus 1.5 years, and that didn't happen. She quit at 10 months, but she tried to quit at 4, and so we started implementing formula at that point. But it was because I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I know now and how to have a successful breastfeeding journey with your baby. And so yeah, that was really hard, and it was very expensive. So as far as that is an expense that you would have to consider as well. And then anything else, really, like, you don't need a lot for a baby. You can go to, like, I love to shop at Once Upon a Child and get secondhand things, because babies don't use things for very long. They tend to be very high quality and not very worn out. So that is an option as well, and that helps cut costs a lot. And then as far as all the other things that you get for babies, you don't need a lot. You really don't need a lot. I would suggest getting, obviously, you need a baby car seat, and those aren't super expensive. I mean, they can be, but you can get a decent one for not that much. I would suggest getting a stroller if you're going to be walking a lot, or out of the house a lot. Or if you want to skip the stroller, you can entirely do that and just do a baby carrier. But anyways, so those are the things that I think are essential. And then some toys, you know, a few things here and there, and you don't need a lot. And, you know, a place for the baby to sleep. So personally, I think that it's not a huge financial burden to have kids. If you get all of the latest gear and everything, then it becomes very stressful financially. And not to mention, if you ever have medical things that need to be tended to, then that can be a lot as well, because that happened to me. I had a postpartum hemorrhage with Bethany, and that was really expensive. And then there were medical procedures that she needed as well. She needed a tongue tie release, and that came out of pocket as well. So there are things, you know, and I would say try to be as prepared as possible. However, you're never going to be fully financially prepared. That's just the honest truth. You're never going to feel like you're fully there. And I would ask you to question whether it is entirely financial or if there's a little bit of resistance to, you know, wanting to have a baby and wanting to have that responsibility, because it is very, very hard to have a baby, and going from zero, in my opinion, 0 to 1 child is far, far harder than going from 1 to 2, because it's an entire life shift. You know, if you're gonna stay home with your baby, that is like probably one of the most life-altering things that can happen to you. And I wanted to stay home with Bethany, and so I have been a stay-at-home mom since right before I had her. But that shift, you know, going from working full-time to not, then we didn't have my income, and yeah, so try to be as financially prepared as you can, but don't stress about it, because it will work itself out. Bethany wasn't planned, and neither was Addie, at least in our eyes. In God's eyes they were, but it wasn't like we sat down and said, okay, we're ready to have a baby now. No, we didn't do that. But I will say now we are waiting just a little bit to have our third, you know, and it could happen that I end up pregnant in a month or 2 months, you know, and I'll have a baby next year. I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but we were waiting a little bit, especially a couple months ago when things were really, really tight, because we pay out of pocket for midwifery services. So there you have the long-winded answer to that very simple question, but I feel like there was a lot to it. All right, so the third one, let me make sure that this is still recording. Okay, we're still good. Let me make sure it's not too long. Okay. All right, we're getting a little long here, so I'm gonna speed it up on these.